Hey everyone, Austin here again, doing something a little bit different once more. Today we have the Super NT. I actually just got this in the mail. I had pre-ordered it about a year ago, and it finally arrived. It took a long time, but it is here, and much like some of the other analog products I've gotten in recent times, I'm going to unbox it. However, unlike those videos, this is going to be more than just an unboxing. What I want to do is actually apply the Jailbreak firmware to this device, which allows me to load ROMs onto an SD card, and so I don't have to use a flash cart. And that's such a great tool for streaming and recording and stuff like that. And yeah, so we're going to do that, and I'm going to show you what you need to do in order to, say, format your SD card, where to get the jailbreak, how to update the console, things like that. I'm also going to play a couple of games at the very end, so if you've never actually seen the Super NT in action, you know, you'll get a taste of what it's like. Analog's consoles, they are not cheap, but they are super high quality. I've actually owned a couple before. I originally sold my Super NT and Mega SG in order to fund a Mr. FPGA, but that was many years ago now. And so as these consoles become available again, I've been sniping them, grabbing them again one by one slowly over time. However, this is apparently the final run of Super NT and Mega SG consoles, unfortunately. So this will be my last opportunity to even do an unboxing like this and show what you know, like the packing is like and things like that, and the experience that you get by buying Analog's consoles. So ooh, okay, that's different. But let's go ahead and what is this? Okay, I have not seen these, whatever this is. All right, let's find out what that is. First, let's bring the console out and get this box out of the way. We'll see if Milo actually wants to get in the box like he did with my not DAC console, but the Analogue DAC, which is follow-up to that. I did an unboxing of that about a month and a half ago, and that is an excellent device. I've been really enjoying the DAC. I'm really glad I've gotten one. It basically allows you to use these consoles on a CRT. But yeah, this is what it looks like. This is the Super NT, and I do believe I actually ordered the Super Famicom themed version. I used to have an all-black version, but it just lacked personality. So let's go ahead and, yeah, it says SF, so it's been like a year since I pre-ordered this, so, oh yeah, let's go ahead and open this and see what's on the inside. Then we'll see what's inside this. I've never actually gotten one of those with my analog console, so let's go ahead and just use the scissors. My fingernails are not doing the trick, but usually, like, you know, cellophane like this, you can usually just take a fingernail and just go like, and then it just opens. So a lot of people are like very meticulous with sharp objects, and I'm like, nah, just use your fingernail. It's good. So, all right. Yeah, Analog's products, I did discover when I got the DAC that they are shrink wrapped. My first Super NT, I actually did not buy from Analog. I bought it used from one of my friends here. Huge shout out to Tony Hayden, who did a really nice trade with me, which helped me out a lot at the time. But again, I ended up selling my consoles, both the Mega SG and the Super NT, in order to fund my Mr., which made more sense from a streaming perspective. But these things, I think, are a lot better for streamers. I get 0 signal drops when I swap games. Man, this thing looks really good. I'm glad I got the Super Famicom version. So for anyone that hasn't ever actually seen this console in person, basically you've got your cartridge slot right here, and you know, you pop your game right in just like that, and then they pop out pretty easily. You got power and resets. Nice clicky feel. You got 2 standard controller ports here. You've got a really nice like sort of rubber base, so it doesn't go like sliding all over the place. On the right hand side you have a full-size SD card slot, and then on the back you've got your USB power, and then you've got your HDMI out. For anyone that doesn't know, if you've never actually seen one of these consoles before, they are FPGA consoles meant to allow you to play your classic games on HD displays, but with also like really good accuracy in terms of like its replication or emulation. Yeah, it uses an FPGA to recreate the original Super Nintendo hardware, and with the Jailbreak in particular, it actually supports most games out of the Jailbreak. It doesn't do Super FX with the Jailbreak, as in loading the game from the SD card slot, but regular Super FX games will work as long as you've got the original cartridge, or you've got something like an FX Pack Pro or SD to SNES. That was before they changed the name to FX Pack Pro. But yeah, that's it. That's the console. Let's go ahead and set it aside, and we'll show you what else is in here. This is going to be a very casual video, by the way. I meant to announce that at first. This is going to be a little more off the cuff. But yeah, you do get Super Turrican built in. I totally forgot about that. So that's a nice bonus. You might even get part 2 built in. Or maybe it's just the first one. I don't remember. I guess we'll validate later once we fire up the thing. And we've got a box here. This is going to have all our cables in it. So you do actually, you should get a power brick, unlike with the DAC that I unboxed a little while ago. So here's our HDMI cable. I really like the analog HDMI cables. They just feel, the connector end feels very sturdy, which is nice. So, and then we've got the USB cable, which that's how you power the console. And then of course at the end we get our little power brick, our little tiny power brick. And these power bricks are Analogue embroidered. They have their branding on them, so, and there you go. So very cool. Okay, so this is actually very new to me. I've never actually gotten one of these in my Analogue packaging. So let's actually open this up. Looks like there's a tab on the right. Now this is the final run. Oh, very cool. Wow, I had no idea I was gonna get this. That's pretty awesome, actually. I mean, I don't have the cartridge for it, but wow. I thought they only really sent this to people that, like, pre-ordered the system initially, like years ago. I thought this was like a special limited edition type of thing. But that's really cool. Okay, I had no idea. Again, remember, the last time I got a Super NT, it was used, so it's possible this actually came with that previous one. So, yeah, that's new to me. They didn't do this with the Mega SG, which I actually unboxed one last year, so brand new, sealed. So this is really cool. Nice little bonus. So, yeah, kudos to you, Analogue. I appreciate it. Okay, so this is actually really easy. Some people, for some reason, get freaked out about doing firmware updates and stuff like that, but with the Analogue consoles, it's actually very simple. Anybody can do it. If you've never done this before, first thing you're going to need is a SD card reader of some kind. I am on a Windows PC. FYI, I've never done this on a Mac, so I can't really help you there, but for PC owners, you'll need one of these. You'll also need, if you're like me using a micro SD card, you're going to need a SD card adapter, and then obviously the micro SD card itself. I'm actually using a 8GB card right here, and if you're trying to load the entire Super Nintendo library, it is under 6GB, so 8GB is way more than enough. Keep in mind that Jailbreak does not do special hacks like MSU1 patches, which is basically games that sort of replicate the Super Nintendo CD-ROM attachment. You can basically have CD soundtracks and full motion video and stuff like that. Those take up a ton of space, but this Jailbreak will not support that. There is no core for those. There's no functionality for that. So you only need a small SD card for this. So we're gonna just pop it in here, and this SD card actually, reader. This reader actually takes a lot of different formats, but, you know, for most of these retro consoles and FPGA units, you're going to just be using standard SD cards. So, and we plug it in, and then we will switch over to my desktop recording. Alright, okay, so we actually have the SD card in right now. I have 2 File Explorer windows up, one with all my Super NT data that I want to transfer to the card. But first things first, on the left-hand side here, we can go down here to USB drive F. And what I want to do is actually format it. Now, I've already done this just to test it, but apparently it has to be formatted to FAT32. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I don't really care about the volume label or anything like that. Quick format is perfectly fine. And then we'll just do start. And we just click OK. Warning, it's going to erase all data on it. And again, it's a really low size card, so it does it almost instantly. So now we have basically a fresh, a card for our Super NT data. So on the right hand side here, I actually have several things. First, what I'm going to do is actually just copy over these. and I just realized my keyboard is in, it's not in front of me, I can't access it because it was getting in the way of my capture. But basically we're going to need these folders here: SPC, System, Pattern, Font, BIOS, and then we need the Super NT firmware, which I'm going to copy over. Now, for anybody wondering, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you where to get the firmware. I'm going to actually post this link right here in the description box and as a comment, so you can just go to that. It'll take you to the Analogue JB profile with the latest jailbreak. And as of doing this video, July 16th, 2023, this firmware dropped, I think, just a week or two ago. So this is the latest as of doing this video. Who knows if Analogue will update their firmware even further via the jailbreak on the Super NT, but you know, it would be really awesome if they ended up adding more features. So this is where you get the firmware. You basically just click on the zip file. It'll ask you to save it, but I've already done that. So you just go to your downloads folder or wherever you put it, and then you extract it, and then you basically will just copy it straight over to your SD card here. So I've got it copied over, and what we're going to do is I'm going to actually start copying over my actual games and stuff like that. And once that's done, I will hook up the console. We will show you what it looks like when you're actually flashing it with the new jailbreak. It'll actually do it automatically the second you boot the console up. And yeah, it's a little time consuming, but I'll show you the process. Alright, so here we have the console. My data is actually finished transferring off the card, or onto the card. I wanted to actually mention at the end of this video, we're going to actually be demoing a couple of games here. I've picked out 3 that are actually very quick to get into, so I don't have to do a lot of cutting or waiting. But we got Super Mario World here, Super R-Type, which a lot of people don't like, but it's one of my favorites on the system, and then good old classic Star Fox. So we will actually try some of these once we're done with firing up the console. But first things first, now that we've got our SD card finished, we need to actually take it and insert it into the console. It goes right side up. And remember, this actually uses full-size SD cards. So if you're going to use a mini or micro SD card, you need to actually put them in an adapter like this. So just plug it all the way in. It actually doesn't go all the way in, so a little bit of it will stick out, as you can see. Not a big deal. It actually doesn't really stick out like a sore thumb. I've never really minded it. But it actually makes it easier to pop out too. You know, none of that clicky nonsense where you have to push it in and it just flies out if you don't catch it in time. Or you don't have to like pick it with your fingernail, which can be uncomfortable. So yeah, you pop it in, and then we'll hook up the cables, and then I will show you what it looks like when you first fire it up with the jailbreak applied. But before we do that, I did want to mention that any of the testing that we're going to be doing, we're actually going to be using the 8-bit DOE SN30. This is a 2.4 gigahertz wireless controller. I am not sponsored by 8-bit DOE or anything like that. I just really love their Super Nintendo, Genesis, and NES controllers, and TurboGrafx actually specifically. These are really nice controllers. They feel a lot like the real deal. Good pivot in the middle so you don't do accidental diagonals, and it just feels really good. And then with it being 2.4 gigahertz, you actually end up with really fast response times. So it's a great wireless solution, and we're going to be using that for today's setup and testing and whatnot. So let's go and swap over to seeing the exciting nature of the console updating itself for the first time. Alright guys, so all we need to do is just power on the console. Lights coming on, and it'll start blinking just like this. This means it's actually applying the firmware update, and we basically just let it do its thing. Don't power it off in the middle of it. You could end up bricking your console. This goes for any firmware update, not just the jailbreak. But just let it do its thing. Hopefully you don't have cats like me that might pull the cables out. But yeah, we'll go ahead and just let it update, and then it should pop up on my screen, and we should be good to go to try out some games and go through its options and settings, and I'll show you actually how to set up hotkeys and stuff like that. That's actually a really important feature, especially if you're using the jailbreak like I am here. Alright folks, as you can see, we've got a picture, which is good. It's a good sign. You can tell your firmware is actually done doing its thing because the light down here changes from red or orange to solid white. So that means that it's done actually flashing the firmware, and then you'll get you'll get the analog startup screen and stuff like that, and then you'll be dropped right into this main menu here. So if you had an actual cartridge in the console, you could actually just go to run cartridge, and it would actually fire up that game. You can also do browse SD card, and if we do that, we can actually go to our ROMs folder and then load up any game that we really want that's compatible with the Jailbreak core. One thing I did notice, I actually had to adjust my game capture on the left here. The Jailbreak menu seems to be like a higher resolution than the standard menu, and so that actually caught me off guard. I had noticed that most of this was chopped off on my capture, so that is actually kind of interesting. That might be something that we can change in options. So let's actually hit B to go back. We'll hit Y for yes, and then we have some other options here. You get Super Terracan Director's Cut. I'm not entirely sure what's different about the Director's Cut compared to the original. I'll have to research that. However, you do get Super Terracan 2. It's been years since I've last used a Super NT, so I had completely forgotten if that was even on here, but it looks like it is, and that's a really nice little bonus feature. For anybody unaware, Analogue's Sega equivalent of this has a game called Ultra Core built into that, so they like building in at least 1 or 2 games, which is a nice feature. It's a nice bonus. So if you don't have any Super Nintendo cartridges and you haven't done the Jailbreak yet, you'll at least have a couple games you can try with this system. So let's go to settings here. Let's go to video. We'll go to resolution. So it actually looks like it's defaulting to 1080p, 60, which is what I want. You can do it down to 50 hertz if you want, if you're in power regions, which is a really nice feature for people that grew up in that area. I grew up in the States, and so 60 FPS or 60 hertz is standard for me. And the 1080p scale definitely looks the best in my opinion, especially as a streamer and game player on YouTube. I want the most crisp capture possible, but you can go down to 480p if you want, and 720p. This does actually support the analog DAC, which is the digital to analog converter, and I will be using the Super NT with that a lot and playing it on my CRTs, but it looks really nice and crispy in 1080p on HD displays. So, all right, let's go back from here. We can go to screen size, 8x7, 4x3, 4x3, blah, 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 and we have different scales here. Usually 4.5x is the ideal scale that you want. I think sometimes 5x might actually go off the screen. I remember that's how it was when I had like an OSSC. So like 4.5 was always the sweet spot, I think. So, but lots of different options here. You've got different scalars, different filters. We'll actually play with these when we're actually playing games. But this also has interpolation built in as well. So a lot of these FPGA devices, what ends up happening is you'll notice like screen shimmer as it's the screen scrolling left or right. And there's a thing called interpolation that smooths that out. And so you really want to leave that on unless you don't feel like leaving it on. But it'll definitely make your eyes appreciate the image more if it's on. Now you can apply scan lines and stuff like that as well. Scan lines might look cool for some people, but because I capture gameplay all the time and stream games all the time, scan lines are not a good option for me. I do admit I like the look, but captured footage just doesn't really pick up the scan line look very well. So I generally leave my scan lines off. But we'll dabble with that actually once we start playing some games. And I do recommend enabling in advanced mode here. There's a lot of extra options and stuff like that, like DAC RGB mode. That's important if you have a DAC. There's a buffer mode. So zero delay is what I like to use. But you can, yeah, you can buffer it. Let's see, 64 sprite tiles, mode 5 and 6 interlace disable. Yeah, that's right. I think there were some like pseudo high-res games on Super Nintendo, and you could, I guess, disable that. Pseudo high-res blending, that is a feature that is enabled by default, it looks like, but I don't know if I really play any games that use that high-res functionality, but I'll have to look into that further. And you've got cropping options, which I'm not going to really worry about right now, but yeah, this is pretty feature-rich. So if you're the kind of person that really likes to tweak, you know, these consoles and these interfaces are really good for that. Let's go ahead and save and clear settings. So I definitely want to save my settings. Now, if you already have a Super NT and you're looking to upgrade with the latest Jailbreak, from what I understand, it does wipe out all your settings. It doesn't transfer settings, unfortunately. So just a FYI. Let's go to audio. Check that out. Looks like you can do a 3 dB output cut, which I'm not going to do. Cartridge audio enable. I'm going to guess maybe that's for like, MSU1 if you have a flash card. But I don't have an updated flash card that supports any of that, so I'm just going to leave it There, so cartridge audio volume, and then we can go back. Now, this is actually pretty important. We've got menu options, controls, and hotkeys, stuff like that. The hotkey is actually very important because I'm going to be swapping from game to game a lot through the Jailbreak, and it looks like the default hotkey for that is select and down, which probably isn't the worst thing, but I'm going to go with something a little more, I should say, familiar, something more in line with my hotkey on, say, my Mega SG. So I'll go up, start, and B. Yeah, I'll do that. I especially don't want it to be too easy to access, because there are some games where, like, I'm going to press up and Y and it's going to bring up the menu, and I don't want that to happen. So let's go ahead and go to, we cancel out, we just go back. There's a confirm select key. By default, the confirm select key is Y. Cancel back key by default is B, so I'm just going to leave those there. And there's a reset hotkey if you want to just reset the console. Well, my console's always right in front of me, so I just hit that, or I just bring up the menu hotkey and get out of the game that way. So, all right, let's go back. Startup options. This is actually kind of important. This basically is the length, I believe, of the analog intro, which is kind of cool on the Super NT. It's very different from the Super, or I should say the Mega SG that I also have. So generally, I like it to pop up to the menu first, but you can disable that and have it just boot straight into your game like a classic Super Nintendo. But because I mostly will be using the Jailbreak, granted, I have a big collection of actual Super Nintendo cartridges, and one of the reasons I love these consoles is I can actually use these. Also, don't plug these in while the console's on. I think it'll toss an error at you, and it might lock up the console too. So don't do that. You always have to power cycle or power the console off before popping in a cartridge. But I like having the option of being able to use, you know, ROMs from an SD card and my own cartridge collection. That is one of the big perks about these consoles, along with being able to use original Super Nintendo controllers and accessories like the mouse and whatnot. So, but yeah, we are. I'm just going to leave it on default here. I'm going to actually bring this down a little bit so the analog intro is a little bit shorter, since I will have to power cycle the console a little bit. So. You can put it into PAL mode, so 50 Hertz mode, which is actually really interesting. Launch system timing, SPC random startup state, SPC RAM startup state, dejitter, SD card speed. It's not really a big deal right now. Yeah, a lot of options here that I don't really know the details of too deeply, so I just generally don't worry about them. And then LED options. This is actually really cool. So what's really nice about this is you can actually change the LED color. I actually liked the red light when we were updating the firmware, because original Super Nintendos actually I believe their LEDs were red. So I'm going to basically turn this light into a similar color. So. And that, let's just get rid of the green and blue completely. Looks like that is basically orange. And it changes on the fly as you're adjusting these. It's really cool. So that's like a bright red. Let's see if we can turn it down just a little bit. Make it a sort of like a more dimmer, darker red. And there it is. Yeah, that looks great. I love that. So, all right, sweet. Let's go back. You just hit the back button. Hit the back button again, and then again, always save your settings, otherwise they won't take permanently. Alright, and so what we'll do is I'll actually pop my cartridges in. We'll play a few games here for the next, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes or so. I'll talk about the games a little bit, and I'll try to apply some filters on the fly and things like that. So you could, I think we can actually do that stuff on the fly while we're in the game, but we shall see. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, our first game on the docket is Super Mario World, one of my all-time favorite games. Absolutely love this game. I don't remember if I actually beat the game on this cartridge specifically. I'm going to say I did, so I'm not really sure if I've got save data on here. But let's actually do my hotkey. We will do, there we go. Yeah, it looks like I got, no, I didn't actually finish it on this cartridge, because I didn't get 96 exits. But let's actually jump into that, and then it should be B, select and up. And that is not what I was trying to do. I think I actually... Oh, you know what? We're gonna have to redo our hotkeys. This is embarrassing. That's okay. This is why you need to set up your hotkeys correctly. So apparently what we did is my combination wasn't for the menu hotkey, it was for the reset hotkey, and I don't want that. So go back to system, startup options, controls, and hotkeys. Let's see what the reset hotkey is. And it is up and select. Go figure. Okay. Let's do let's do down BY select. Just make it really hard actually to, yeah, I want to make it really hard to reset because I don't use the reset functionality. I just press the reset button if I want to reset. So menu hotkey, it is still up, start. Oh, okay. Let's do select. I'm used to doing select. Okay, let's go ahead. And again, we have to go ahead and save it. All right, now let's go ahead and jump back into Super Mario World. So what I will do is access my menu here, just like that. And what we can do is go to settings. We can go to video. We can change the resolution, width and height, cropping, scalars. Let's mess around with some scalars here. So that's HQ2X, makes it look smoother. HQ3X, HQ4X. Never really been a fan of these types of filters, or these scalars, I should say. But then we have other options as well. Not a whole lot of options here. There's the X-ray mode. That is actually very interesting. But let's go with the HQ4X to start. And then just go right back into the game. How do I get out of the menu? It is... Holy crap, this is not going as smoothly as I hoped. It didn't give me an option to go back into the game itself, but yeah, so this is with, I think our HQ4X scaler, so you can tell that it's trying to smooth all the pixels on the edges, and it's always been kind of a weird look. Text in particular always looks warped, and so yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this filter, but it's fun to be able to show them off a little bit on games like these, so yeah, good old Super Mario World. Again, probably one of my favorite games of all time. It's just a really fantastic game. And it's really good stuff. This is where Yoshi was introduced. And you've got these switch palaces that you want to access. I haven't accessed the first one yet, and basically what they do is they will fill in these color-coded blocks. They'll give you power-ups when you try to bust them with your fist. They will also, you know, make platforms appear that wouldn't normally be there to make certain parts of, later parts of the game in particular, a little bit easier. So you can jump off Yoshi. It's a very responsive game. It's really fantastic. You also got this spin jump, which is used for certain blocks, but it will also just pound straight through certain enemies. Yoshi can eat things. Yoshi's just a really fantastic character. It's a really good addition to the Mario series. I think apparently Miyamoto had wanted to add a dinosaur to the game for a while, but he was able to finally do that with Mario World. And we've got exits. If you hit that bar, the higher up it is, you'll get more star points there, and when you get a certain amount of star points, you'll be taken to a bonus stage, which is basically just extra life central. But if you're first playing this game for the first time, you want to take that left path, because that will give you your first Switch Palace, so. But yeah, that's the HQ4X scaler. Looks kind of interesting, so let's go ahead and go back to our settings. Yeah, and actually, what's really unfortunate about trying to adjust settings here, it looks like you can't actually just get back into the game. On the Mega SG, I'm pretty sure you can, so, unless I'm missing something here, so, oops, in the wrong one. And actually, I forgot to show off menu options. You can actually change the highlight style. So that's swipe, that's solid. You'll notice that it's now not blinking at me when I switch. Rolling, throb. I do like the throbbing one. I like that pulsating nature. Swipe isn't that appealing to me. I think for me, I'll either do flash or I will do, I think I'm gonna leave it on throb. That's a nice, I love like pulsating effects like that. That's really nice. Let's go ahead and go back. Highlight color, you can change, yeah, the highlight color. Let's see, do they have, oh, they don't have, oh, they do have blue, okay. Blue looks a little distracting though compared to, yeah, because the Super Nintendo has such a bright color palette. The blue looks really good on the Mega SG menu, but for here I might go with something that stands out more. Like, I like that magenta, honestly. Light purple, dark purple. I'll go with that magenta. You can change the font too, which is actually really cool. There's an alternate font. You can change it from uppercase to lowercase. I definitely prefer all uppercase. I think it's a lot easier to read, but I like the original font. It's very stylish. Apparently you can load your own fonts as well, which is really cool. So, menu bounce. I'll actually turn that off, and you can choose whether to dim the menu, which I recommend doing if you're going to be sorting through your ROMs list a bunch of times. So, prompt when saving RAM. So this does actually save your data if you're on the jailbreak. So I always leave that on just because I might forget. There's skins. Super Famicom skin. I actually really like that. That's actually very colorful. I think I'm gonna go with the Super Famicom skin. That actually makes, I think, those buttons down there easier to read. So, and it looks like I'm running out of time here, but let's go back to our video settings. Let's go back. So down to video, we will go with scalers. Let's go back to the no scaler, but then potentially apply scan lines. So we've got it on no scan lines, we've got normal scan lines, let's enable that, and we got hybrid scan lines, and we've got hybrid scan line depth, which I'm not really noticing much of a difference here when I adjust these. Oh, there we go. All right, so scan line width makes them fatter. That actually doesn't look that bad to my eyes right here. I mean, I play on CRTs a lot, and on CRTs, you can see the scan lines if you look really close, but generally they kind of blend into a point where you just don't even really notice them as you're playing. And so that's kind of what this looks like. So scan line sub brightness. And time is up. Come on, Mario. There we go. Okay, so it actually looks like by raising this value, it actually makes them darker or thicker, however it is. So I'm going to just go ahead and leave that at full. I kind of like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and go back. And let's save settings. I don't think we need to save settings when you're doing scanline stuff, but I don't know. We will see. And again, we go back. And yeah, it's just not going to let us exit out back to the game, which is really interesting. That is very, very interesting. So we have to go back to run cartridge, and it's gonna reset the cart. So we'll just go ahead and jump back in. You can see those scan lines. I don't know how well this is gonna come up in capture though, but on my LCD screen here, it really doesn't look that bad. But again, I don't really ever do scan lines on LCD screens. I definitely, if I really want my scan lines that badly, I've got, you know, 3 CRTs in this room that I can use. So it actually looks like we finished the Star Road as well, which changes the world if you have never done that before. It's a really fun feature in this game. One of the things I just love about Super Mario World, there's just so much good stuff in this game. So, but yeah, those scan lines look kind of interesting. So I think I could definitely do some more adjustment though, because I'm noticing some like blending that's going on with the scan lines, and that is definitely, yeah, it looks a little funky to me. I think that's actually a level name on the Star Road in this game. But alright, I'm going to actually turn the scan lines off, and we're going to pop in 2 more games just so you can see what the Super NT looks like from a general perspective, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. So let's go ahead and do that. Alrighty folks, so now we have Super R-Type. I know a lot of people don't like this game, but I always, you know, love having the opportunity to show it off, because it's actually one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. Granted, I've been playing it since probably 1995. I have definitely an advantage on it, probably 94 actually, but I love this game. So I'm going to show off a little bit of the first level here, and I always put it on hard mode because I've played this game a lot over the years. Again, it's one of my favorites on the system, and one of those games that I think actually looked really good. This, for the time, this actually came out, I think, just a couple months after the Super Nintendo launch in North America. And I always had one of those more like realistic art styles. Still looks video gamey, but they definitely went with more of a realistic approach with these visuals. And just like R-Type in the arcade and sorry, not Super R-Type, but R-Type 2, you can charge up, which is mega powerful in this game. And you can charge up 2 levels deep to do that huge spread shot. But you can also just hold down Y and you'll do an auto fire, just little rinky-dink shot, but you'd be surprised at how helpful this this little weapon is. And these guys actually take a lot longer to kill now because I am playing on hard mode as opposed to easy or normal. One thing that people really criticize about this game is all the slowdown, but I mean, there's so much slowdown, and especially the Super Nintendo's early life cycle. I mean, Gradius 3 was another one, Super Ghouls and Ghosts was another one, Castlevania 4 was another one, but you know, they were also great games in my opinion. But R-Type tends to get, I think, criticized a lot more for that stuff because it is a very difficult shooter. And one of the nasty things about it is you basically have 0 checkpoints in each level. When you die in this game, you go right back to the very beginning of the stage. Now, there's actually, you know, good and bad things to that. For one, the bad thing is you've got to go through that whole level again. If you're trying to learn this game for the first time, it is very difficult to, I guess in a way, find the enjoyment. If you're one that just doesn't like checkpoints, which I know there's a lot of you out there that are like that. But it's good on the other hand because you'll be guaranteed to basically be fully powered up by the time you get back to the boss fight. So, you know, it's a double-edged sword. But people tend to focus on those two things when talking about this game. But I love the soundtrack in this game. I've got basically every tune in this game memorized, and I've actually got playlists online of it, so where I can basically just like fire up the whole soundtrack and listen to it. It's also got a sound test menu. It was like one of the earlier 16-bit titles or Super Nintendo titles that actually had that feature, which was great. But yeah, this is our first boss here, and this is actually a new / unique boss. R-Type, Super R-Type is an amalgamation of R-Type 2, the arcade game, plus its own new unique levels. And I've heard people complain that they prefer the R-Type 2 levels that were chopped out, but I'm of the opposite mindset. I prefer the new stages because some of those R-Type 2 levels were hardcore memorize or die scenarios. R-Type 2 in particular is just an insanely difficult game. But yeah, that's Super R-Type, and actually, you know, funny enough, this. We're led now into I keep saying Super, R-Type 2's, you know, initial stage, so. But you've also got this pod mechanic I didn't even talk about. You can, you know, that's how you actually have special firepower, but you can also let it go, which was one of the awesome things about R-Type. There's a lot of flexibility in this series because of this pod system. You can basically throw it out, you can bring it back, and as you get powered up, it'll start doing, you know, bigger, like, spread shot patterns, which is really handy. But yeah, that's Super R-Type. Let's go ahead and switch off to Star Fox and see how that looks here on the Super NT. I really wanted to show off Star Fox in particular because it is a Super FX title, and it's mainly to show that, yes, Super FX titles do work on the Super NT, just not through the jailbreak itself if you're trying to run it off the SD card. But yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Alright, we're back to the main menu here, so let's go ahead and run cartridge. And then fire up some Star Fox. We'll probably play through the first level, and then that should do it for this video. But I really appreciate you guys sticking around if you made it this far. I was originally just going to do a really simple unboxing video, which is what I typically do with these devices when I get them in the mail. But I was like, you know what? Let's actually show people how to set up the, you know, the jailbreak firmware and stuff like that, how to update the firmware. Try to make this video a little more useful, and then just show off some games just to show what the video quality looks like. You know, I really love these analog FPGA consoles. I kind of scoffed at them at first because they're so expensive. You know, they're about $200, maybe $215 or so, but then Analogue charges you $30 for shipping. So it basically puts them into like the $240, $250 territory. And so just my 3 consoles, Super NT, Mega SG, and then the upcoming Duo as of doing this video, which I pre-ordered. I mean, all that combined is like $750. That is a lot of money to replicate classic video game consoles, and it's one reason why I originally got rid of my consoles here to fund the Mister, because the Mister does a lot more than what these do. And these just replicate one in the case of the Super NT, maybe 3 or 4 different consoles in the case of the Mega SG, and again, one in terms of the Analogue Duo. You know, that's a lot of money to spend on replication of basically one system. However, as a streamer and a video game recorder and whatnot, I found that these make my life a lot easier than even the Mister itself, and so I've been reacquiring them, you know, to basically use for streaming and stuff like that, but then also have the option to, you know, use my original cartridges, original accessories. So, they're expensive, but they're really nice devices, which is why I have them again, despite owning a Mister FPGA. So, jumping into the first level here, Star Fox was just like, for consoles at the time, it was a cutting-edge game. Nintendo really went all out on this in terms of like development and, you know, the technology. But they also, despite the low frame rate, crafted a really, really fun game that still, I think, holds up very well today. It's my personal favorite Star Fox, not really from a nostalgia standpoint, but it's just, I find that it just plays really well, despite the low frame rate. And I love how it is definitely the most arcadey of the series. It is the most straightforward, it is the most just get in, shoot stuff, be as accurate as possible, and it's got a good sense of speed and stuff like that. You know, you can brake, you can press A to drop bombs, which do tons of damage, and that's still a really cool effect. And this was just a really special game at the time. I know there were other platforms that had better 3D, technically. You had the 3DO, you had PCs, you know, computers rising with their 3D prowess, and lots of arcade games with 3D, but for a console game, this was just, you know, on a 16-bit console game, it was very impressive at the time for us. I was like, I think 11 when this game came out. So, no, there's certainly nostalgia with this game, but again, it's been my most revisited Star Fox game over the years, and you know, I like other Star Fox games. I love Star Fox 64. I've started to warm up to Star Fox in the Wii U, Star Fox Zero, and you know, other entries in the series. But there's just something special about this first one. It's just, again, it's a really great pick up and play kind of title, and it works great here on the Mega. I'm so dyslexic today. I was about to say Mega SG. I'm not playing Virtua Racing on the Genesis. I'm playing Star Fox on the Super Nintendo. But it looks great here on the Super NT. It's, yeah, it's good. Now, one thing I actually would have liked to have seen on this is like dither blending, and I don't think that's a feature here, or like composite blending. That's actually a feature on the Mega SG, settings, video settings, even on a like jailbreak firmware. And so what that does is, you'll notice, like, if you look at my shadow on the ship, it's like it's a checkerboard pattern. It's basically like a grid. And you know, on a CRT that's masked a little bit better, and what that allows for is just, you know, different types of shading on different objects, like my wings. It's a way of trying to get more colors on the screen. You know, this was like designed for CRT technology, basically. And when you play these games on an HD display like this, scaled up, you know, nice and clean, those really stick out like a sore thumb. You really see that checkerboard pattern, and it's all over the first Star Fox. A lot of people, I don't think, remember that, like, it wasn't just the Genesis that used like heavy amounts of dithering. Certain Super Nintendo games used a lot of heavy dithering, and Star Fox is one of them. Look at that huge shadow; it's all dithered. And again, I don't think there's an option to try to blend that on this this firmware. I would love to see that implemented, because again, it's on the Mega SG, and there's a bunch of Super Nintendo games that really need that feature as well. Man, this is our first boss. You basically just shoot the spots that are like red and blinking. And one thing I love about the first Star Fox, and this happens in Star Fox 64 as well, is when you hit enemies, they actually blink at you. And that was just such a common arcade trope. Again, it's one of the things that makes this feel so arcadey. and that's a good thing. You know, it really feels good when you're attacking stuff. And one thing I love about this game is even if you're like downgraded in your firepower, you still have a tendency of doing a lot of rapid damage. You just see that boss health bar just like come straight down really fast, and it's just very satisfying. But yeah, that is Star Fox, guys, on the Super NT. I'm going to be doing a lot of streams in the near future with my Super NT because I can, and it's awesome. I'll be doing some real cartridge streams like we're doing right now. I'll be doing streams off the Jailbreak and just playing like hacks and homebrews and stuff like that. There is some recent NES conversions that would be fun to play through. Yeah, so we're gonna have some good times here. Alright guys, that is the Super NT. I hope you guys enjoyed the unboxing. Hopefully the firmware setup and Jailbreak and stuff like that was handy to you if you're someone that's new to this this platform or this console series. Hopefully you enjoyed some gameplay and some talking about the games as well. That's my channel name, it's Gameplay and Talk. Generally, this is my format where I play games and I talk about them. Lately, in particular, I try to actually beat the games and give you tips and strategies and stuff like that. And, you know, I do my best to have good hardware and a good setup so you get good video quality on the capture, and that is why I have a Super NT again. But, man, this little guy is kind of sexy. These cartridges do stand pretty tall though. But yeah, that's the Super NT. This is again the Super Famicom version, and super glad to finally have one again. And as of later this year, 2023, I'm looking forward to getting my Analogue Duo as well. I'm super stoked for that. And then that'll be my last analog console for a while, unless they announce another FPGA unit that seems appealing, like maybe a Neo Geo or something like that. I don't know. We will see. But, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, found it useful. If you're new to my channel and you want more gameplay in particular, please feel free to subscribe. I do these types of videos once in a blue moon. Hopefully I'll start doing them more often as I get into other types of hardware and accessories and stuff like that. But if you found it interesting, please give the video a thumbs up. Again, feel free to subscribe. And if you have any friends that might find this useful, feel free to share this video with them. That would actually help me out a lot. And I just want to see people get more use out of this content and find it handy as opposed to just entertaining. So, but either way, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And until the next one, take it easy.